What are we talking about? Episode 5, Post the Ghost Podcast.
And one.
Welcome. How are you, bud?
Hey, I'm doing good. We're on the same camera today.
Yeah, new set.
Yeah.
We're looking pretty fine, and there's a reason behind it because we have. I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit nervous for this episode. I think it's gonna be pretty exciting, and hopefully the beginning of a lot of really, important guests that not to suggest that the people that we haven't had are definitely not important. They're really knowledgeable hockey people in the world of hockey, but this is like really the cream of the crop of what we got today.
Well, absolutely, my friend.
Yeah.
If there was one coach that I look up to,
Wow.
in particular, and I think a lot of people do, it is Scotty Bowman, and you know what, we'll be talking to him a little bit later, and you know what, it'll be fun to pick his brain and just to see, talk about his journey and talk about just shoot the shit, really.
He's got a very large resume, as most of you guys know. The most successful coach in NHL history. So we're lucky. We're lucky to have him on the podcast later on, but that's in a bit.
Yeah, and no, we got to talk about our little
the new set.
Yeah, big thanks to Chloe Potts.
Chloe Potts interior design.
Yeah.
She designed this for us. Wasn't a fan of some of the ideas that I brought forward, but was a fan of some of the other ideas that we brought forward, and it was important for us to be on the same camera going forward as well. So at least with when we're together.
Yeah.
This is kind of cool. So it's what we have.
Potts, you should have seen Potts. I had the idea to revamp his basement, and he's like, "Oh, jeez, fuck Christ, why you're changing my whole fucking basement? I'm like, why am I fucking doing that? It's not even gonna be fucking nice." And look at it, look at how nice it is, Potts.
I didn't say it wasn't gonna be nice. It's just that we had to move a lot of furniture around to get it to this point.
Okay, Potts, we had to move a couch maybe a meter, or if you're in the States, 3 feet.
Yeah. Anyways, very nice looking set. So thanks to Shelly and Chloe for the design, and Shelly for the idea.
Yeah.
Shelly had a great idea of doing that, so that's good. This again, this is a huge episode for us. Obviously, Coast to Coast Podcast, episode number 5.
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
It's not Cinco de Mayo today, but today is July the 22nd. We're recording this episode. It'll be released the next day on the 23rd. So really looking forward to you guys having an opportunity to listen to this episode. And our sponsor for this episode is really excited to be a part of it as well. So today's episode is sponsored by TDI Hockey. Are you an aspiring hockey player between the ages of 15 and 20 looking to take your game to the next level? Then TDI Hockey was built for you. Looking at getting on to U18 AAA team, making the jump to Tier 2 junior hockey, major junior, or even trying to make the NCAA or OUA. We are the team that you want to work with. TDI Hockey's passionate and skilled team members are here to help players achieve their goals. TDI uses showcases across Ontario and the U.S. to expose their players and bring them to the next level of their hockey careers. Located in Northern Ontario, the boys at TDI Hockey understand the full obstacles presented to players trying to gain the extra little bit of exposure needed to make the jump to the next level. With a staff comprised of members that have over 10 years of coaching experience, scouting, and hockey operation, TDI uses its strong network in the hockey world to push and promote players to the level they desire. Visit us on Facebook at TDI Hockey and keep an eye out for our new website we'll launch soon. TDI Hockey, the on and off ice development you need. That was a long spot.
Yeah.
But
Jamie Burns made you work for that one.
Jamie Burns really made me work for that one. But again, thanks to the guys at TDI Hockey for sponsoring this episode number 5, which is it's always greatly appreciated. Yeah, yeah. We gotta have to explain to Scotty. We're not trying to put a Boston Bruins logo on. I mean, he did coach two out of the six original six teams. Boston not being one of them, and TDI obviously kind of uses Boston as their
Yeah.
Not, I don't want like not the same logo, but a template of their logo. So we'll have to explain that one to Scotty a little bit later on.
Yeah.
So
he'll be like, "Hey guys,
why is there a Boston Bruins logo?
I did not coach Boston.
I didn't coach Boston."
Yeah.
Anyways, your turn.
My turn.
Yes.
Yes,
What are
sir.
we drinking? Because I'm thirsty.
Sir. We are thirsty. So we are talking about Full Beard Brewing today, and we are talking about their IPA, their main IPA, and their core beer selection. I'm gonna put this up here, and then you can see obviously my recording. So my producer skills are shit. So we have the Drop Bear IPA. Drop Bear. Do you know why it's called the Drop Bear IPA?
No. Give me a history lesson here. Or what?
Well, not really history, but like they call koalas in Australia drop bears because they drop out of trees because they eat too much eucalyptus and they get stoned and they fall. And anyways, yeah, so the main brewer is from Australia, and that's why they called it the Drop Bear IPA, I believe.
How's it taste?
Let's check.
Perfect.
I've had it before, but
well, I have as well. But
all right, let's do this.
Let's give it a taste test for episode 5.
So at an ABV of 6.7, it's a strong beer. It's a strong beer like usual IPAs, and
as you can see on the can, it says right beside 6.7, strong beer, bière forte, forte.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, eh?
Yeah. It's got like a malty, hoppy mix that I really like. It's like a traditional IPA. The big craze is hazy IPAs, which was our first beer, I think, that we featured from Full Beard. But so then this one is their mainstream IPA, which is a very good IPA. So again, thanks to our sponsor, Full Beard Brewing,
official beer of the Coast to Coast podcast.
Yes, sir.
So if you're listening to the episode or to our show for the first time, to episode number 5, and you don't really know who we are, where we're from, because I'm guessing we're probably going to have some new listeners today.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. My name is Potts. This is Shelley. We're two guys from Northern Ontario, based out of Kapuskasing, essentially, who just love talking about hockey for the most part. We do kind of bash the Blue Jays a little bit. We talk about some golf. When the Blue Jays are good, we'll, give them their dues, but they haven't been very good this year, so we won't talk about them this episode at all. And then, so we're basically just two guys sitting in a basement and want to talk some hockey. And so far, we've had a lot of fun doing these episodes. It's been a real blast, and it's kind of a milestone, which is why we have such a huge special guest today. But it is a bit of a milestone for us. 5 episodes. It's been about 7 weeks where we recorded 5 episodes. We've been through. Shelley was on vacation. I was on vacation, so we took a bit of a hiatus. We'll call it hiatus. But we are back. It's been a couple episodes. We've been back. We've done some in my garage. We've done some in the basement. We've done some poolside. We've done some at a distance where you were in Detroit, Michigan. I was in my basement. So yeah, that's basically who we are and what we like to do. And speaking of hockey, I know that you have some breaking news. Well, I don't know. It's not really breaking. People probably heard about it, but it seems like there's a specific team in Calgary.
Yes, sir.
That had some pretty good news come out this week.
So, yeah, Calgary has unveiled what their stadium or arena is going to look like, which is just unbelievable, man. It looks like it's going to be a great place. And you know what? They've been needing a stadium for a little while. I call it a stadium, but
it's an arena.
Yeah, it's an arena. I know. Yeah, okay. They've been needing an arena for a while, and it's good that they get this rink, which looks absolutely amazing. It's just gonna rock. It's just gonna rock. It'll create another little buzz around the
Flames.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and not that Canadian teams need more buzz around them, but certainly I think we've heard players in the past voice their displeasure when it comes to The arena situation in Calgary. I remember there was a time where it was the same situation at Edmonton. They went out and spent a fortune on their new arena, the Rogers Arena. Good for the city of Calgary, good for the Flames organization, good for the fans, honestly.
Yeah,
I think if it's long overdue, I unfortunately have never had the great pleasure of visiting the province of Alberta and going to a game in Calgary. But from what I hear, especially come playoff time when the Flames are battling for Lord Stanley's Cup, it's really a show, right? The what is it, the Red Mile or whatever it's called, or Sea of Red?
Sea of Red.
Sea of Red. So I mean that's good for the city of Calgary, good for the Flames. Hopefully, it will help them. Be able to attract new players, or not new players, but maintain their current players that they have, and then help with the free agent situation, because I know it was talked about a lot when you look at players that played there. They were like disgusted with the arena situation. In Calgary, and I don't blame them. I mean, you're in the National Hockey League, right? These days, this isn't the 1950s and 60s anymore. Players are expected to be treated a certain way, and we all saw how it ended with the Arizona Coyotes, right? Playing out of a college stadium, and not having proper dressing rooms and all the proper amenities that an NHL team would need. So, good for the city of Calgary. And also, in other NHL news that came out today, the Columbus Blue Jackets, have finally,
yes,
moved on from their current, and look. This is a team that over the last, we'll call it 15 months, has really struggled, right? When it comes to a head coach. Okay, so Jarmo Kirkalainen.
Try it again. Try it again.
Jarmo.
Yep.
Mr. Jarmo. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Kirkalainen. I don't know how. Anyways, I think it's. The Columbus Blue Jackets last year, they come out after the season. They name Mike Babcock the head coach of the team.
Oh, Babs.
And then Babcock went and pulled the Babcock, and he gets canned because he did some things that were inappropriate. In an NHL locker room in 2023. So he gets canned. On the fly, they name Pascal Vincent the replacement head coach. And then that obviously doesn't work out. They were, one of the worst teams in the NHL this past season. Krakalainen gets fired. The new GM comes in, Don Waddell. He fires Pascal Vincent, who, unfortunately for him, had only been. And I'm glad, Pascal Vincent got a chance. He got rehired this week by the AHL Laval Rocket from the Montreal Farm Club. So I'm glad he's back in the game. He didn't, get out of it too long. But anyways, nonetheless, all that to say, not Carolina. I'm thinking of Waddell now, and that was Columbus has their guy, Don Waddell, named today Dean Evison, which was the head coach of the Minnesota Wild last season before he was relieved of his duties, is named head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And the one thing with this, Shell, that I'm kind of, I found intriguing, and I look back at all the coaches that were hired, this offseason, and there was a fair amount of them. They all seem to be going back to like those hard ass coaches, like the new generation of coach. And look, these coaches have had to adjust, make no mistake. But I just look at like a guy like Craig Berube, where he's the coach in Toronto now. Dean Evison, these are hard ass coaches. They don't look like they're easy guys to get along with. I
call kind of what happened in the NHL over the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years. I call it an experiment. It was an experiment into like a player's coach, and kind of letting the players run the rooms and stuff like that. And I think everybody's realizing that doesn't work.
It's over.
I think so. You know what? It might work in junior and things like that. And then these so-called player coaches that are very player, hard ass coaches are still player focused, and they're still trying to get the best out of all their players. But a player driven team is kind of old news now. What do you think?
I absolutely agree, and we can obviously, like I mentioned, like you're seeing this, and you know what,
we coached in it. We coached in this too, like
Yeah.
in kind of that, you know, and
Yeah.
we saw that the change we had. Well, and we coached together for how many years?
3-4 years,
5
years.
I think so.
I can't remember.
Anyways, so we've been coaching for I've been coaching for 10 years, I guess.
Yeah.
At a elite level, I guess I can say.
Mhm.
Obviously not NHL level, but you know, like mid
Elite-
AAA level,
Elite
and,
for our level.
yeah,
for our area.
and you saw the transition of the way
Big time.
kids are and things like that. But you know, like it was like an experiment. It was like, okay, let's see, let's give them all the power in the world. But you know what? At the same time, they crave direction, but you can't be too hard on them. But you know, like I think the experiment's done, man. It's done.
And there's two things, and I do one of them, but there's two things in this life that I wouldn't want to be full time, and one of them is a hockey coach, and the other one is a teacher. And you do both.
Thanks, bud.
And for obvious reasons, just because of how hard it is to handle the situation with the kids and dealing with the parents, and the parents is it's another ball game when you talk about, and I can only imagine at school it's got to be that much worse at school, right? But anyways, I don't want to put you in any hot water with your professional life or anything like that. All I'm saying is that these are two things that I would not want to do full time. I love coaching the game of hockey, and I do it because I love the game. I've gotten in some hot water with some people in the past, didn't always agree with the way that I did things, and that's perfectly okay. They're entitled to their opinion, and I won't argue their opinion with them. Okay, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm going to make the decisions that I'm going to make on the bench and, in the dressing room and all those other things. The one thing that you don't want is a coach treating players unfairly and those types of things. And I think these hard-ass coaches probably, would probably favor the hard-working players more than the skilled players.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they're hard-ass and they like hard-working players. I look, and we mentioned the name Mike Babcock. I remember Babcock when he was in Toronto. I used to hear, like, why is this guy so horny for Zach Hyman? Like, he's got a massive fucking boner for Zach Hyman all the time. And I'm like, because Zach Hyman works hard, and that's the type of player that Babcock wants. He wants 25 Zach Hymans on his team, and he thinks he can win a Stanley Cup if he has 25 of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Like,
and I remember our interview with Mark Seidel where he's like, find me a list of 100 guys like Zach Hyman.
Yeah.
And they don't exist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're a dime a dozen.
Nope.
So anyways, I kind of got off topic a little bit there, but
if you're a young player listening to this podcast, work goes a hell of a long way.
Yeah, it's hard. Work goes a lot further than skill.
Absolutely. And like, you know what, like it's so fun to coach. So obviously you're going to favor those kids that work harder.
Yeah.
And if your talented kids work hard as well, then you know what, like then you're building a successful team right there, like, and then it's so fun to coach and it's so fun to play if everybody's working hard, right? And then players keep each other like accountable. It's easy to see who's not working, and then as a coach, like get them going, say, hey, like, you know what, you're not working up to the team standards of work ethic, like let's go here.
Yep.
And then when all cylinders are firing, bud.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. But just to kind of put a wrap on that, like the one, and I say this to people that I worked with closely here in the Flyers, and I hope I'm not insulting anybody when I say this, and if I am, then I apologize. But probably the best coach that we've ever had with the Cap Flyers, and no offense to you either, but probably the most structured coach and most knowledgeable hockey mind that we've had in the Flyers for the last, I'll say last 15 years since I've been involved, is probably Glenn Denny. I don't think you'd argue me on that point. Did Glenn have some faults? Absolutely. But was Glenn a good hockey mind? Yeah, absolutely. And if you talk to the players that played for Glenn, I don't want to say 10 years because that's maybe a little bit of a large window, but I'll say the first 8 years. And you go back to those teams, to those teams today, and you ask them who's the best coach you ever played for, and they probably all say Glenn Denny.
Yeah, and I would agree because he knew how each player had to work and play, and he didn't stop until that player played like that.
Exactly.
And some people didn't like it.
And that brings me to my next point is if you talk to the last 3 teams that Glenn coached, the players of the last 3 teams that Glenn coached, you ask them who the worst coach they ever played for was, and they'd probably say Glenn Denny.
Yeah.
So the transition between the first 8 and the last 3, it was like, it was crazy. Like I hear it today, I talk to some former players, and I like to think that I'm on pretty good terms with most of the guys that, even the ones that don't agree with my decision, I still give them a hug when I see them from time to time. The decisions that we made back then. But when I still talk to those guys, and the conversations are still had. And like I said, I think Glenn is a fantastic coach, fantastic hockey mind. But I do think there was a change in the culture and the change in the generation in that 12-year span that I spent with Glenn. So anyways, all that to say, congratulations, Dean Evison. Welcome back to the National Hockey League. You're the head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm sure that that'll bring, a little spark to the Columbus dressing room for sure.
I think so. Yeah, I think he'll fit in well there.
Just look at and I know we're not showing it on the screen, but I don't know if you can share it. But like, just look at this mean ass face that he's showing in his introductory post.
Yeah, well, I'll pull it up.
Okay, if we had Stats Guy Zach's actually away on a hiatus for a week, so he's not with us this episode. So if Sheldon is lacking a little bit in certain areas of his producer skills, it's because Stats Guy Zach is not around. He's actually...
Hey, I got it, bud.
You might be faster than Stats Guy Zach.
So this is Dean.
Yeah, Big Dean.
Our boy.
That's the picture right there. This is the picture that they posted on X today. We got our guy. And they posted that picture, and it was just like, look at that face on that guy.
Yeah, man. It's like he looks like he's. I just want to play for somebody like that. It's just like, let's go. Let's go to war. Let's go to war.
He looks like the kind of guy that doesn't even like winning. He just really hates losing. Mm-hmm. Winning doesn't really satisfy him that much, but it's better than losing because losing is the worst thing in the world.
Well, I'm sure he gets satisfied with some wins there.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like
Scotty
hypothetically,
style, man.
Yeah, not many guys. Well, actually, no. Nobody has won as many games as Scotty Bowman has in his career, and we'll get to the numbers a little bit later on when we introduce him to the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, that's just a kind of a bit of a wrap as to what's kind of happened in the last few days in the National Hockey League. The British, I call it the British Open. It's known like that in North America, but I think
it's the Open.
It's the Open Championship. Yeah. And the one thing I didn't know, which I learned this weekend, is if you win the Open, you have the title of champion golfer of the year. I didn't know that. So anyways, the winner of he had a massive round on Sunday. Massive round. -6 on Sunday. That'll do it for you, especially when you're in contention. Xander Schauffele.
Yeah, man.
Congratulations to Xander. Hey, can I ask a question?
Yeah, what's going on?
Why are you holding your mic like you're biz nasty today? You think you're better than me, or?
I forgot my attachment for the mic stand, so I'm sucking on this popsicle.
Okay, I was wondering what the hell was going on. Anyways, Xander Schauffele wins his second major of the season. He won the PGA Championship, and now he wins the Open Championship. So, as much as, a lot of, and with all good reason, one thing that I find amusing.
Do you find it amusing? I find it amusing when you can't talk.
Is that the two best golfers in 2024 is Schauffele and Scheffler. When you look at the leaderboard, their names very, very much like I thought it was Scheffler that was leading. I just read it really quick on the weekend when I was watching.
Safe bet, yeah.
Hey,
safe bet to think he's leading.
Yeah, right. And then it was like Scheifele. I was like, no, it's not. That's Scheifele.
Xander.
Yeah, it's not Scheffler. It's Scheifele. Anyways, so he shot a massive -6 yesterday. Man, those like the one thing with the Open Championship is like. And my wife made the comment when we were watching on the weekend, like the courses just look like shit all the time. Mm-hmm. Like the greens don't look nice. It's just like kind of like, where did you play? Cabot Hills?
Cabot Cliffs.
Mm-hmm. Cabot, like it's just like fescue upon fescue upon fescue. No trees. It's just like open, almost like we're playing in Moonbeam, but much more difficult, I guess, and much more windy the ocean plays a factor.
A little bit more expensive too.
Probably a little bit more expensive for sure. But anyways, so he had a big round yesterday. Justin Rose made a late push. Tristan Lawrence was in contention. Scotty Scheffler was in contention, but had a bit of an off day on Sunday, which ended up in the top 10 regardless. But not many golfers can say they finished top 10 in all 4 majors this year, and Scotty Scheffler can say that. So
yeah, it's unreal. Poor Rory though.
Oh, Rory had to go away. He was arguably just as bad as Tiger was. Tiger finished he didn't make the cut, neither did Rory. No. Tiger finished plus 14, and I think Rory was a plus 13. After Thursday and Friday. So you felt bad for him. He sunk a nice. Was it a? I think
you might have beat him like that.
Not at that course. That's definite.
No.
Wouldn't have got there.
No.
But anyways, we'll wrap. We'll get our special guest on. Really excited to have a chance to meet with him. Scotty Bowman on the other side.
He's calling me right now.
Oh, sweet.
Okay.
So today we have the distinct honor of welcoming a true legend in the world of hockey. With a career spanning over 4 decades, he has become synonymous with excellence and innovation in coaching. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1991 and led his teams to an astounding 9 Stanley Cup championships, the most by any coach in NHL history. Known for his strategic genius and unparalleled leadership, his influence on the sport is unmeasurable. As we get the chance to sit down with him today and have a unique opportunity to gain some insight from one of the greatest minds in hockey. He's the former head coach of the St. Louis Blues, Montreal Canadiens, Buffalo Sabres, Pittsburgh Penguins, and Detroit Red Wings. The winningest coach in NHL history at 1,244 regular season wins. Please welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the legendary Mr. Scotty Bowman.
How do you do? One correction, though.
Oh, what's that?
5 decades.
Oh, 5 decades. Really?
60s, 70, 80, 90, and my last one in 02.
In 02.
Come on, Darren, you had one job.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Scotty.
Okay. It's okay. Keep going.
So
you're a good PR director. I'm going to send it around to the teams for an interview.
There you go.
So I want to, first of all, I want to say thank you, Scotty, for taking the time. This is honestly, we've been doing this podcast for about 7 weeks now, like we mentioned earlier.
Oh.
And this is you're by far, our most, we'll call it prestigious guest when it comes to the world of hockey, National Hockey League, Stanley Cup champion, all those great things. So, thanks, number one, for taking the time to join us this evening. My first question, I do want to jump right into it. And I think it goes without saying, obviously, with such a large resume, where do you start? And I kind of went back and forth. What's my first question going to be for Scotty when we get him on? But my first question to you is, obviously, you mentioned it, 5 decades of hockey, different levels, the NHL, junior, all those other things. What drew you to the game of hockey, and how did you get started in coaching?
Well, I grew up south of Montreal in a city called Verdun, not very far from the Montreal Forum, actually. And I played junior hockey. And back at the time I was playing junior hockey in the early 50s, there was no draft. And the NHL teams were sponsoring junior teams. And they had the amateur rights to those players. And subsequently, they got the professional rights. So I was in there. And then I got an injury in March of 1951. I was playing for the Junior Canadiens. I was just 17. And I had a pretty serious head injury. And that kind of put me sidetracked me from being able to really play at a level I might have been able to play. But I turned, and the Montreal Canadiens were the team that I was going to belong to. And they offered me to send me to school. Either I was just finishing high school, but I didn't want to go to university at the time. I was looking to start working. So I went to a business course first for about 18 months. And then I got a job with the Sherwin-Williams Paint Company. And in the meantime, I started coaching outdoor hockey. They were starting to get Bantam and midget players and getting the line on them. So I I didn't know a lot about coaching because I had only played junior, but I was able to work at the paint company, and I was able to go and watch the Montreal Canadiens practice nearly 3 or 4 times a week. And then I got a chance when I was 21 in 1954 to coach a junior B team. It was an independent team, and they didn't have a lot, so they were looking for somebody like myself that wasn't going to ask them for very much. So that was my start. And then I got a chance to go full time. I worked 2 years in the paint company. I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I was coaching at night junior. And then I got a chance to move to the city of Ottawa with the junior Canadians who had then moved from Montreal. And that was the start of my full time. So from 1956 to 2000, maybe 2008, I guess. Well, actually later, because I was a consultant, till about 2020, I was able to get paid by a team. So that was a long welcome for me.
What were the coaching salaries like back when you first started in the game?
Well, when I started in St. Louis, I was assistant coach, and I was coaching junior prior to that, and I was paid $7,500 in Montreal, and then I got a chance to go with the expansion team in St. Louis, and I got a 2 year contract, $15,000. But the players they weren't making much more at the time. Some of the ones that we picked up were making about 20,000, but in those days I was making 15,000, and that was the first contract I had in the NHL.
Oh, right on. I got a question. Just in terms of your first experience coaching in the NHL, I know you started as an assistant coach and then ended up taking over full time as head coach. How was that experience, kind of walking into an NHL team and being that coach?
I really signed up for the first. I think I signed a 3 year contract, and the first year I was going to be assistant coach. Teams didn't have assistants, but somehow with St. Louis they were going to change it. I was going to be assistant coach and also assistant general manager, and the team we were starting fresh with all the other. What was there? There were 6 teams at that time. That the league went from the 6 original teams, Montreal and Toronto in Canada, and New York, Boston, Chicago, and Detroit in the U.S. And then they expanded, and they went into markets that really never had even pro hockey for the most part. It was Philadelphia. They were a pretty strong team at the beginning, but and then there was Los Angeles, and there was Minnesota, and there was St. Louis. There was Oakland. They weren't very strong, and Pittsburgh. That was the 6 expansion teams. So I didn't coach the first 16 games, but the coach at the time was the late Lynn Patrick. He found that we were struggling at the beginning of the season, and he wanted to just concentrate on managing. So he called me one night and said, I'm going to advance instead of next year. I want you to take over the team now. So I wasn't really. I was pretty nervous about it because we had a pretty weak start. We were 4 wins, 10 losses, and 2 ties. But I had spent a lot of time. My spare time, I'd go down to our farm team in Kansas City, and somehow after the draft and we started the season, we kept some veteran players. We didn't have a lot of young players, but we had them go down and play on our farm team, Kansas City. And I knew that there were some players in Kansas City because I used to go down every Friday. We weren't playing at home till Saturday, and it's an easy trip. And I knew there was some there that, we're going to be enthusiastic and we're going to change things around. So when I got the opportunity to head coach, I was a little nervous, and I said, our roster doesn't look that good right now. And I said, I think there's some players in the minors that might be able to help us. And he was very cooperative. He said, look, you know those players. Any changes you want to make in the roster, go ahead and make them. He said, I just want this team to be successful. So I think we had 3 or 4 players. I brought up 3 younger players, and we had to do something with the veterans. And all of a sudden, it kind of turned our team around. And then we made a trade. We traded a player that was a veteran, Ron Stewart. He was with the Toronto Maple Leafs when they won the Cup in '67. He was really playing well for us, but he was 36. And the Rangers Emil Francis was running the Rangers. They were a strong team in the East. And Bobby Hull was with Chicago at the time. He was just a one-man. He was unbelievable. And Emil Francis wanted somebody that could really skate with Bobby Hull, and there wasn't very many that could. Ron Stewart was a good skater. So they traded 2 players that I knew from playing coaching junior and also my days in Ottawa and coaching one in junior. We got Red Berenson from the Rangers. He had moved on from Montreal, and they weren't playing him very much. And we got Barclay Plager, who was playing in Buffalo in the American League. And I'm telling you, those 2 guys came, and of course, the big acquisition in the draft, we got Glenn Hall, and but getting our hands on both Red Berenson and Barclay Plager changed the fortunes of our team overnight. Red Berenson was, I would say, the best two-way player in the West Division for 3 years. He was in his late 20s, and he hadn't played much. He'd come out of college. Montreal had him as a spare player. They had too many good players. Rangers got him, and he went there. You know, sometimes you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And when he got to the Rangers, they already had 3 centermen that were pretty experienced. So he didn't play very much. So it was a trade that could work out for both teams. Ron Stewart went to the Rangers, and we got our 2 younger players, and it turned our team around.
I'm going to take you back, and I had a chance to listen to a good part of the audiobook on yourself, you know, an autobiography, sorry, the book called Scotty, and it's narrated by one of your former players, Ken Dryden. And I believe he wrote the book as well, if I'm not mistaken. He also, you know, he mentioned in the book when you went to Montreal in 1972, you know, that, you know, you and the team were not ready to compete for a Stanley Cup in the first year. But, you know, when you got bounced in the first round of the playoffs, but when you came back in 1973, you guys were ready. You were ready. The team was ready. What does he mean by you guys were ready? You were ready to you know, you were ready to be better.
Yeah, the year before that, in the 69-70 season, Ken came out of Cornell University and was attending McGill University, and he was also playing home games for the Montreal farm team in Montreal. It was a Voyageurs, they were called. So he played the home games, and he went to school at McGill University, and he's the one that they brought into the Canadiens. The last, I think I would say the last 6 games of the season, they were going to finish 3rd. They were the 3rd strongest team, and all of a sudden Dryden went in, and they made arrangements. He was finished his school, so the Canadiens said, you know, they weren't happy with their goaltending, and they asked him what his travel schedule would, or could he travel, and he said he had just written his exams. He came into Montreal, and they had a 6-game road trip. I wasn't there, of course. Al McNeil was the coach, and I was still in St. Louis, and he went in and won 6 straight games. It was amazing. And then they got in the playoffs, and they had one of the biggest upsets in the NHL, even counting up to date. They beat the Boston Bruins. Boston Bruins won, I think, 59 games that season. They were led, of course, by the great Bobby Orr, and Dryden just was fantastic. He beat Boston in the first round, and then he beat Chicago, and they won the Stanley Cup. And then, of course, that was the 70 Stanley Cup, but the team was about 3rd or maybe even 4th best. But, you know, the playoffs are the playoffs. So the next year, in '71, we had a pretty good draft. We drafted Guy Lafleur and the first #1 pick from Oakland. We drafted Larry Robinson in the 20th pick, and they were young. And Larry started his career in the pro with the Voyageurs. They had moved to Halifax, and Lafleur started with us. But it was a lot of pressure on him. He just played junior in Quebec City, so we had a really good group of young players that all of a sudden started to come on. The next year, in the '72 draft, we drafted Steve Shutt, and then every year for the next 2 or 3, 1973, we drafted Bob Gainey and other players too. Then Doug Riseborough and Mario Tremblay. The draft provided at least a half a dozen really solid players, and you're asking about the '73 Cup. We won the '73 Cup, and Ken decided that, I don't know, it was a contract dispute, but he went back to Toronto. He went to law school, and we didn't win the playoffs. We missed him so bad, and then he came back, and I think Ken Dryden was, if you count the regulars, you can't count the 70 Stanley Cup regular season because he only played 6 games. But then he played about seven regular seasons, and he was on 6 cup winners. It's amazing. Amazing. I mean, it's hard to believe. He only missed once in 7 years, and he was a different type of player. He had been a very educated player, and like you mentioned, he wrote some other books prior to mine. And then he's quite a research person. He was a lawyer. He tried that. He didn't really enjoy it. He went to the Toronto Maple Leafs as president, but he was always looking for something better. And then I think when he started writing books, it wasn't as much of a rush for him. He took his time. He just recently wrote a book. I don't know the name of it, but I'm supposed to be getting one soon. He graduated from high school in Toronto, Etobicoke High School, pretty middle-class area. And he graduated in his high school class, I think it was in 1967. And there was, I think, 40 in his graduating class. 2 of them had passed on. And I think he made connections. This is to tell you what type of person he was. It took him about 3 years. And he researched 38 former classmates, where they are. They're all over. I guess the book will tell me, but he wrote a chapter on each player, on each student, where they are now. And
wow. That's unbelievable.
You imagine Ken was like, when he was in the I don't know exact birth date, but I mean, he I think when he finished college, he was 22, which would be I think around 1970. So if you backtrack, he was 22 and when he first joined, and that's 54 years ago. So he's probably, those students are probably around 74, 75 now, and they're all over the world. Wow. And he wrote a book about it.
That's unbelievable.
I heard
that's amazing.
I'm not pushing the book, but I don't think I have the right title, but it was like Then and Now, like then being what they were like in 1967. And he wrote a chapter on each guy. So he was a very thorough guy, very unusual personality for goalies, as you know. A lot of them are different, but Ken was his own guy. And he's a wonderful person. He's very well educated, and he's tried a lot of. He hasn't just been stuck on one thing.
So going back to your Montreal days, and you're talking about kind of Guy Lafleur, and you coached Henri Richard, Frank Mahovlich, Serge Savard, Ken Dryden. Just describe your experience as a younger coach at that time. In your 30s, you were coaching. How was that kind of coaching some players that are about the same, a little bit younger than you, but just describe that experience.
Well, like you mentioned, the team was so strong. And they were in those days. It's so much different than today. There wasn't a salary cap issue. The players started to win. We won four in a row from 76 to 1979. And the team like was just, when a goalie like Ken Dryden, a Hall of Fame goalie for sure. And then we had three Hall of Fame defensemen. We had Serge Savard, Larry Robinson, and Guy Lapointe. And we had a fourth defenseman that only played in the last of the cups because he just started. He made the Hall of Fame as well, Rod Langway. And I think of the forwards, I think it was five of them. There was Frank. You mentioned Frank Mahovlich and Henri Richard, and then there was Jacques Lemaire, Guy Lafleur, Steve Shutt, Yvan Cornway, and Bob Gainey. So I'm not sure Detroit now because we had a wonderful ending in Detroit. My last Detroit team, I think Detroit had 9 Hall of Famers my last year, but one of the people going in the Hall of Fame this year will probably make it 10 because he just got put in. He couldn't get put in before this year. Pavel Datsyuk.
Right.
But from that winning team in Detroit, there was fellas like Nick Lidstrom. We had Dominic Hasek was our goalie. We got him from Buffalo. He's in the Hall of Fame. We had Nick Lidstrom, Larry Murphy, great Russian players, Slava Fetisov, Steve Yzerman. We had Sergei Fedorov, Brendan Shanahan, Igor Larionov. They're all in the Hall of Fame. Luke Robitaille and Brett Hull. Mm-hmm. So people always ask me those two teams. I said, I really can't put my finger down and say, if they were going to play each other. But I guess what I keep going back to is the Montreal team is amazing, like to have the big three, Robinson, Lapointe, Savard, and then the Rod Langway didn't play a lot, but the goaltending and the defense. But that was pretty strong in Detroit too, because they weren't maybe as they didn't do as long. But Larry Murphy developed. We got him from Toronto. He was a good player. He played with Nick Lidstrom, who was just a super defenseman. And Slava Fetisov was old and veteran, but he was a player that had a lot of experience. And we had the goaltender too in Dominic Hasek, because that we had a tough series. My last year coaching, because in the time I went to Detroit after the first couple of years, Patrick Roy, actually we kind of caused it. I was with Detroit. We beat Montreal at home 11-2, I think. But Patrick was in the net for 9 goals and a big dispute, and they traded him. We played in that game was in November of the year. They traded him to Colorado, and Colorado, that was the missing piece for the Colorado Avalanche. We battled them. If you look at the records, Detroit and Colorado, we probably battled each other for a good 6 years. Whoever would win and beat each other would go on to win the cup. And my last cup in Detroit, we were down in the series because they were a really good team. Sakic, Forsberg, a couple of good Russians, Adam Foote. They had a good team, and of course Patrick was a money goalie. And we were down in the series 3-2 in 2002, my last year. And Dominic Hasek went into Colorado in Game 6 and shut him out 2-0. And not many teams ever shut Colorado out. And then we came back and we won the final, the 7th game, 6. I think it was 6-0. But he pitched two shutouts back to back, and he was at the end of his career. But in hockey, like having a Hasek on one team and Dryden on the other, they'll go down in history. When Dominic Hasek played in Buffalo for probably maybe a little less than a dozen years, for 6 years he won the goaltender award. Yeah. He was just a fantastic. The team was okay, but they never won the cup. One year they went to the finals in '99 against Dallas, but Dominic was just a special type of goalie, and of course Dryden as well. And I think when you look at teams, when you start wondering, how did that team win or lose? A lot of times in the playoffs, you look at the teams, that won, like Marty Brodeur was a money goalie with New Jersey. Every team, it seems that Billy Smith was so good with the Islanders back in the 80s. Billy Smith with the Islanders, Grant Fuhrer with the Edmonton Oilers is a very underrated goalie because they played a very offensive game. So, if you can, I was very fortunate as a coach. I don't fool myself because my first team in St. Louis, Glenn Hall, in the second and third year, we had Jacques Plante. They were veterans. They had age on their side, but they only played half the season each, and they were just unbelievable. And then I got a little fortunate getting to Montreal. We talked about Ken Dryden, and then I got to Buffalo, and we made a draft. We drafted a high school goalie. I left Buffalo before he won cups, but Tom Barrasso just got in the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, and I went to Pittsburgh later on, and he won 2 cups in Pittsburgh, and then in Detroit. After I got to Detroit, we didn't have a goalie yet, and I made a trade. I traded a pretty good defenseman named Steve Chason. Unfortunately, he passed away, but after that, and we got Mike Vernon, and Mike Vernon had won a cup with Calgary, so he had pedigree. And then we had Chris Osgood for another cup, and of course I mentioned Dominic Hasek. So I think when I was counting up the goaltenders, I think there was like 8 of them. I mean, if you get to be a coach, and 8 of your goalies are in the Hall of Fame, like I wasn't a goalie coach. I didn't have much to do with these type of goalies. Like now, we had a couple of goalie coaches late in my career, but the first 3 teams never had a goalie coach. But the goalies, you get eight Hall of Fame goalies, and you're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, absolutely. The one I'm a little bit in awe. You mentioned all these names here, Scotty, and it's like these are, when you mentioned the Fedorovs and the Yzermans and the Shanahans and the Lidstroms, like these are guys that I grew up watching as a young kid,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And the battles with the Avalanche, I still remember those. Those were like blood wars almost in the playoffs. Like you just don't see that type of hockey anymore. I can remember like the goal. I think there was a goalie fight at one point with Waugh and Osgood, I think.
Well, it started with the Claude Lemieux and Draper.
Yeah.
And then it spilled over into the next year, like you said, and then we had a lot of, like you're right. It was. I mean, people that look for rivalries. There's been a lot of good ones. I mean, before my time, Toronto and Montreal were great rivals. Chicago and Detroit back in their days, but our Colorado and I mean, we didn't matter where we played. I mean, Colorado is probably Denver to me was one of the toughest rinks to play in with the altitude. It's a mile high city, and we didn't win a lot, but we won our share to keep going. And then Joe Louis was not a very easy place for the visiting team. Yet they knocked us off a couple of times at the Joe Louis Arena. So when I look back at the rivalries, we had a good rivalry in the 70s in Montreal. Boston was really, before we played Boston, we had beaten Philadelphia in 1976. And then we played Boston 3 years in a row. And every year they got better. The first year we swept them in the final. We swept them 4 straight, winning the cup in Boston. In the second year, it went to 6 games, and we did win that game. That was in the finals. And then the third year was in the conference finals. And it took us to overtime when Guy Lafleur scored that famous goal. And we had tied the game with a minute to Guy Lafleur, he tied the game. And then Yvon Lambert won the game in overtime. But, they're great rivalries, and it's not as easy now to get the big rivalries because, during the season there's some rivalries, but 32 teams, so the chance of playing the same team again, especially in the finals. It's not. I don't. I mean, it'll happen, I'm sure, but like it's like Florida Panthers beat out this year a great series with Edmonton, but they had been in the finals last year, a pretty good series, but they were beat up, and Vegas beat them. Last in the Cup final in 23. So, but it's a different game. 32 teams, probably going to have a few more players from Europe. When I started with the St. Louis Blues, I'm not even sure if there was maybe two or three American-born players. Every player was from Canada. No European players at that time, and then the influx of players from Europe, like a lot of Russians. That's a pipeline that's kind of changing now. Some are coming, but not as many. Sweden's been a great developer of players for a country of a little more than 15 million. They have a great system, but and not to discount Czech Republic, and now you got Slovakia, Finland. The players are coming from different places now. So
what do you?
I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Scotty.
That's why you can have more teams.
Yeah, of course, and it is more of a global game, right, than it was, say, back in the '60s and the '70s. But I'd like to get your thoughts. You mentioned the game has changed. What are your current thoughts on the state of the game? The way that it is in 2024 compared to even when you left the game. I think your last year in Chicago as a front office, you were in 20.
I never had the like when they took out the center line. When they took out the center line, it's like a racetrack now. I mean, and the like even the players I just finished watching play over here in Buffalo for the 2009 born, and these are the best. I mean, the best 180 of last year that played at that age group. But I mean, I went to watch it because a friend of mine's son was there, and he actually is with a university. He's an assistant coach in the U.S. and there was hardly a player that I could tell you he better learn how to skate. They were so fast. Every play I couldn't like if you had asked me rate the best skaters, it's pretty hard. They all skated well. There's the very odd one, and when you go and I'm sure when there's a bunch of scouts that go there, and I know some of them, and I was talking to them, and they say it's a real difficult job picking them out now, but they look for hockey sense. I guess that's the one area where players can get better by repetition. They can get better with shooting and passing, but it's pretty. You're kind of. I guess it's in your DNA. Like where everybody is on the ice, so you can. That's what to me. That's what made the difference between Mario Lemieux in Pittsburgh, Wayne Gretzky. In fact, I heard a very, very funny statement by one of his ex-teammates in Edmonton. They were talking about Wayne, and they said they remember one game he was playing with the puck, and he screamed at the referee. They got too many men on the ice, 5 guys on the ice. He knew where all 5 skaters were. In other words, that's an unbelievable statement. But Mario was like that too. They just get the feel of the game where I better not put it there because there's 2 guys there. This guy's not looking. It's an amazing trait to have, and it's not always easy to pick out, but the skating it's such a fast game now. It's so fast, and they clog up in front of the net. That's the biggest. There's so many screenshots. There's so many bounces. We didn't have that many because when I coached, even up to 02, with the center line in, our wingers covered the other defensemen. Like they would cover the 2-point men, and then your centerman would play down low around the net and in the circles with the 2 defensemen. But now if you look at games now and you look below the top of the circle, you see five. You have the goalie plus five skaters on the defending team, all standing there trying to block shots, and then you got two or three from the other. You got a cluster of players, and that's a big difference in the game. But if you ask me, the one thing I think is because the equipment's better, the skates are stronger, but the players train. They train pretty well, maybe 11 months a year. I was talking to a fellow that you said you're a Toronto fan, and I was talking to one of the people that works in the organization, and he was saying that I said they have a skating coach, and that skating coach for the last 2 years, because he wasn't able to keep up. He's a great player, John Tavares, but now you don't notice John Tavares has not been able to keep up as much because and when I was starting hockey, if you didn't have a good stride by the time you were 13 or 12, you're not going to get any better. There's no hockey in the summer. Mm-hmm. But now there's all kinds of mechanics that they teach the people how to get strong from the waist down. And it's like, I can't tell you, people ask me, I guess what I would always say, the great players from the past would be able to play under the same conditions as today. No, I'm not ever questioning that. But these players today, they train, the nutrition, even the equipment is like we haven't talked about a little bit about goaltenders, but you got these goaltenders that have the equipment. When they first started, in my day, every piece of equipment was made of leather. It would get wet and get heavy. Now it's the opposite. Yeah. They can put stuff on that weighs a pound.
Yeah. And they change between periods and everything, and fresh
they
pair.
Change the clock. Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah. Even to a point where they changed skates. I think Ovi was one that he'd use 3 pair of skates a game or something like that. Something ridiculous.
There's I don't know the ones that I forget. They said that some of the players were so particular with their skates, they were trying and using 20 to 30 pairs of skates as they broke down. I'm not sure now though, because the skates are more like I still have my old skates, and I did have some that were a little stronger than the original leather skates. But now it's a different stride. But the skates they give you a lot of protection on the feet, but but they're very solid.
Yeah. Absolutely. I got a coaching question because me and Darren we're coaches, and we've been in the game for a little while now, and kind of aspiring coaches to potentially make it to the next level and all that good stuff. So I want to pick your brain a little bit. So in an interview, Serge Savard said that you were a coach ahead of your time. So I want to ask you the question: how were you able to kind of think forward and trying to get an upper hand on other teams by being kind of reinventing the game, let's say?
Well, I had a very inquisitive demeanor, maybe because when I started, I never knew how to do anything. I started at a young age, and when I started coaching, there wasn't very many my age. And when I started coaching, usually it was veteran players retire and they become coaches. But I was very fortunate in my early career. Like I said, with the paint company, I lived in Montreal. I was there when their heyday of 5 straight cups. And then in the 60s, when they won 4 out of 5 from 65, 66, 68, 69, although I had gone to St. Louis for the last 2. But, I had the good privilege of talking in Montreal with Toe Blake. I had the junior team. I would kind of look forward to every Friday and asking questions about like systems and playing against I remember saying, look, I know my team tonight is outclassed by another team. Is there anything I can do rather than just play and stuff like that? And then when I went to Peterborough for 3 seasons in the 50s as well. And I even though it was Toronto Maple Leafs, they used to train 6 weeks a training camp, and I got to know Punch Imlach. And Punch Imlach joined Toronto. I'm going to say around the late 50s. They weren't very strong. Montreal used to win the cups against them, and then all of a sudden, like Punch Imlach, I think he coached the Leafs and manager too for 10 years, and he won four. He's won four cups. I mean, four cups in 10 years with a six-team league wasn't that easy, but he was very cordial. I was able to. I remember I played golf a couple of times with Punch Imlach. He had me out for lunch. I mean, even though I was working for a Montreal farm team, he didn't. He just wanted to help a young coach. So I think that's one thing I was fortunate that I started young. I wanted to always find out, what made some teams tick, and I used to ask a lot of questions, and I owe it to a lot of people. That's why if I get a chance now, when I go to these things like I just did on Saturday and Sunday, some people come up and they start talking hockey to you, and I could just say, well, it's different now. I mean, I'm not one of these guys that would say, oh, it's the same. It's the opposite now. I mean, I don't know. Now the coaches have at their disposal analytics, and
Yeah.
some of them use analytics, and then the sight game, both. In other words, I want to see something with my own eyes, and then again, I want to have it back it up with what are the analytics tell me. And I know it's big in baseball. I know people in baseball told me that they have very rigid analytics. Hockey, I think the teams don't advertise it as much, but they use it quite a bit.
Oh
So
yeah,
I like
it's even.
I like I would think I would like to be able to give my opinion of a certain thing, but a lot of times you're undecided,
Mhm.
and I think that's when I would say, well, what does it show? What does history show? But I'm not sure of that though.
And part of that kind of forward thinking, like we can talk about kind of the Russian Revolution, they call it, where the Russian Five and in Detroit.
Yeah.
And if you can just talk about that a little bit and how you decided to put them together, and it was something that has never been done before.
I'm
And
always interested in the system that the Russians. I had an interview in Montreal with Anatoly Tarasov. He's the one that brought hockey to Russia way before our time, from Czechoslovakia. That's where he got it, and he was way ahead of his time, and ran good practices, and mind you, they had to train 11 months a year. It wasn't easy. It was pretty tough lives for those people, but the Russians, they changed the game in that they started to cut it. They started to leave the zone early. They started to cut across, and I really think that because we got some of their players, but we also adapted. We used the best of what they do, and used still some of the things that North American hockey is. And yes, the Russian Five. I started with two. We drafted a young kid, Slava Kozlov. I was with Detroit. We sent him to the minors. He come over to training camp. He's only 21, and we sent him down to our farm team. I don't have the stats, but he was so good the first 2 weeks. We brought him up to Detroit. We only had three the first year, and then we were fortunate. We were looking for a depth defenseman, and I made a trade with the New Jersey Devils. They weren't playing Slava Fetisov. He was like number 7 or 8, and I knew Lou Lamoriello, and I was able to. He wasn't going to use him, and we always got along pretty well. And I got Slava Fetisov, and boy, he surprised us. We played him a lot. He was regarded in his heyday in Russia, which would be the 80s. Don't forget, he didn't come to New Jersey till 1989, but his heyday was like he was often considered the Bobby Orr of Soviet hockey at the time. And he came, and he had such a good head on his shoulders. He didn't have the speed in that as he had original of his his first 2 years, but and then he was very close to Igor Larionov, who had played in San Jose, and then one summer he said, Igor Larionov would like to come to Detroit, and I said, well, they're not going to trade him, and then I just happened to make a call, and we were very strong on right hand shots. We had three or four that were. We had Dino Cicerelli, we had Marty Lapointe coming along, Darren McCarty, we had another good player, Ray Shepard, and they were looking for some goal scoring. And the moment we got Larionov is that was when the Russian five, that was the final piece of the puzzle, because Larionov and Fetisov were 2/5 of the original Russian five, which had Kasatonov was a defense mate of Fetisov, and then there was Krutov and Makarov and Larionov. And then later on, they had Fedorov and they had Bure and another good Russian on their wing. The Russians have always sort of kept 5-man units. And then when I had those guys, they knew how to play. I didn't have to do any. I didn't think we had to do very much coaching because they were on their own and they had a different style. So I didn't use them exclusively because it was so hard to decipher that I felt it's like having an ace in the hole, and plus we had a bunch of other cultures on our team, but they accepted the Russian five and they provided a different game for everybody.
Scotty, I've got one last question, and then I'll let Sheldon have the last one before we wrap. I just want to know. You mentioned a lot of great names. We said some of them that we watched play when we were younger. Some of them obviously they were before our time. And all the great players that you coached. Who would you say is obviously there's the superstar status. You coached Mario, all those things. Who would you say was the most complete player on both sides of the puck? Offense, defense. Could be a forward, could be a defenseman. But who would you say was the most complete hockey player you had the opportunity of coaching in your career?
Probably one of the most underrated players, but I can't say he's underrated. He won about 8 times. But I had the good fortune of going to Detroit when it was Nick Lidstrom's second season. And I'm telling you, I have a hard time remembering, like he was a left defenseman. I probably on the fingers of one hand, how many times Nick Lidstrom ever got caught and left his partner to defend a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1 or whatever it is. He was just an amazing two-way defenseman. He missed, I think, a career. He played a lot after I left in 2002. I think he had a 20-year career. And, we used to maybe let him miss a couple of games at the end. He missed like 20 games. Hard. I mean, he was good and tall, but boy, offense, defense, playing against, always played against the best players on the other team. Always. Yep. Mm-hmm. And he also had players that played, every player that went with Nick on the right side, but that's on the defense side. Lafleur was when you go back in history of the NHL, and I've talked to a lot of old timers about it. One was Toe Blake. Like in the early 20s and 30s, the player that you as a fan would pay money to see was Howie Morenz. And after Howie Morenz in the 50s and in 60s came Maurice the Rocket Richard. Fantastic. People would pay money just to see him play, forgetting about the score and everything. And then a player that never got a lot of accolades, I don't know the reason, but in the 60s, he was a dynamite attraction, Bobby Hull. Oh my goodness, if you ever see tapes of this guy, he was so big. Gordie Howe was a great player with the Rocket. I would put those guys so close together. And then Then you go into the 70s, and it took about 2 years, but Guy Lafleur was such a dynamic player that he would lift people out of their seats. And then you have to go to Gretzky and Lemieux for sure. And then, one of the great players of the last decade and a half, and dependability, and picked up some injuries too, is Sidney Crosby. I don't know if he's going to get the accolades that he really deserves, but he's right up there in a point total. He's in there with the cup wins. He's still playing. And now you're into it's so hard now. Look at the race this year when you got guys like McDavid and McKinnon and Matthews. I mean, look at that. Imagine you score 70 goals and you don't get picked for something.
Yeah.
Defensemen like that guy for Colorado, Cale Makar.
Yeah.
But there'll be every year there's players coming up. Every year. I'm anxious. Yeah. I saw Bedard last year. He's not a big man. He didn't have a lot of help. But there's a player this year, and they don't have a strong team right now. But I've been able to be told by people, his name is Celebrini, Macklin Celebrini.
Yep.
He's a #1 pick. He set a lot of records with Boston University, and he was a year younger than any other college player that ever had to play like him. So I'm anxious to see. Now, his team is not, his team was the lowest point total last year,
Yeah.
But I've talked to people that coached him. I've talked to people that know him, and they said he's a 200-foot player. The one that they try to compare him to, because you don't want to put a lot of pressure on these guys, but they compare him a lot to like a Sidney Crosby type. Chicago had one when I was there, like Jonathan Toews.
Yeah.
Like, he and Patrick Kane were two different players, but they meant so much. But they were like Jonathan Toews and Crosby. They had to kill the penalties. They had to take the face-offs. They had to get important goals.
Yeah.
So but every year now, I think we're going to see these phenoms come in, and there's a lot of pressure on. The young kid coming in at 18. It's a lot of pressure.
Huge. And you mentioned, the name Jonathan Toews. There was a point in Toews' career before the injuries and all that other stuff happened where they were, comparing him to Sidney Crosby, where he could have been, the legacy of Jonathan Toews could have been bigger possibly than the one of Crosby. Now, I think it maybe have tarnished off simply because of the duration wasn't as, obviously.
He did get a couple of pretty serious. Well, they both got serious concussions.
Yes.
Crosby took a lot of time.
True. Yeah.
And they're like you said, Crosby's still playing, and I don't have much information about Jonathan. That it's kind of sad that he was such a integral part, and like people think it's like he's off the face of the earth, and he was a. When you're going to be captain of a team at 20 years of age, Yzerman was like that in Detroit. Yzerman, I would mention him because, he got put in as a captain when he was 20. Team was weak for 10 years. Never got out of the first round hardly. What people don't realize is all the glamour and all the glory. It's a terrible game for a superstar that in the playoffs the team never wins, or he never gets out of the first round.
Yep.
Because they even though they're well compensated, highly compensated, the secret is they want to win. That's why they get paid too.
Absolutely. And Austin Matthews knows all about that.
Austin Matthews knows all too much about not being able to get out of the first round.
Well, yeah. It's not easy, because people talk about it all the time, and hockey is a 6-man game, 6 men,
Yeah, it's not like basketball or any of those other sports where one particular player can dominate the game, right? Like you look at what LeBron James did in Cleveland, and I know I'm switching sports a little bit, but like he was single-handedly
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, right? Like it's a different sport. So go ahead, Joe.
I got one more question. So all-time favorite hockey moment, what would that be?
Well, when you're coaching, it's something to feel the special feeling to win the cup. Obviously, and then again, my last season winning the cup. But it's more than just a moment. But in 1976, in Montreal, of course, we won the Stanley Cup against Philadelphia. It was a big upset at the time, and then the fall came, and I was coaching in the Canada Cup, and we had Bobby Orr and we had Bobby Hull, and we won the Canada Cup in September, and then about maybe 3 weeks later, my wife gave birth to twins.
Holy moly!
So I'm saying, when I'm from the month of May to the month of October, I mean, if you said to me, "Would you like to relive anything?" That would be my whatever it was. Not even 6 months.
That's amazing.
Amazing part of career and an astonishing successful coaching career that you've had, Scotty. And again, I want to take the time to say thank you for chatting with us. It's greatly appreciated. The stories, the names that you mentioned, all the things that it's a little bit. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little starstruck right now, just having an opportunity to chat with you and chat about the hockey career that you were able to have as a coach, and the players that you were privileged to having behind your bench. So.
You'll both be going to Iceland or just
no, not myself. No,
just me. Yeah.
Have you been there yourself or not?
I haven't. Sheldon's been there a couple times, but I haven't never been there personally.
Well, Sheldon, you got to get him up there, no?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna work my magic and try to do that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And are you both Kapuskasing guys or?
Yeah, no? He's a Timmins guy that moved to Kapuskasing.
Oh, Timmins.
Yeah, originally from Timmins, Ontario. Yeah.
Well, that was when I missed a part of my career, like when I coached Peterborough, then they put me in as a scout. It was an awful 3 years traveling. I used to take my car in Toronto, head North Bay, Sudbury, New Liskeard, Kirkland Lake, Rouyn-Noranda, South Porcupine, wow. Timmins.
Right, yeah.
Hearst, Kapuskasing. Yeah. I never got to one place. There was one player that came when I coached junior. I don't know if there's been more than one, but there was a player from a city. You'll have to tell me where it is. Smooth Rock Falls.
Oh, yeah. That's about 40 kilometers. No, a little more than that. A little more than 40.
60. Yeah.
60 kilometers east of Kapuskasing.
I don't know if he played in the NHL. Played junior. He's a good player. Bob Dillabo. So if you ever get up to that neck of the woods, you'll know.
I know that one of the names you'll probably know, JP Parise.
Sure.
Yeah, he's originally from Smooth Rock Falls. He still has family in the area.
Another one. And Zach is his son that was born in Minnesota. Yeah. He was a very dependable player. And taken much too early for the rest of us. But well, I wish you luck, guys. I'm glad that you can talk hockey and maybe hope that we touched all the bases. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Thank
Ladies
you
and gentlemen, the legendary Mr. Scotty Bowman. Thanks a lot, Scotty.
Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
And we're back.
We are back.
Holy.
That was something.
I can't. His memory is impeccable.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Like when he started, I don't even remember the year, but I would say I didn't live it. But when he mentioned that, they got, such and such a player at 6, and then they got, the next guy at 20 in 1971 or whatever, and I'm like, wow. Just unbelievable.
What a pleasure to talk to Scotty Bowman.
Yeah.
I like picking his brain a little bit about coaching, and just little things that kind of, like how he was innovative, and coaching all these Hall of Fame players. Like it's amazing. Like the list goes on, and we could have talked to him all night, but obviously we
kept it short for you guys so that you would tune in for the whole thing.
maybe we'll have to get him back on.
Well, yeah, for sure. I'd love to.
Yeah,
And we can, part 2 of, the Scotty interview. But,
yeah.
No, you know what? I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit, I said the word starstruck during the interview. I was a little bit like overwhelmed by the names that he was throwing at us, right? Like this guy right here behind us, Rocket Richard, he coached that guy. He coached guys that I grew up idolizing. Steve Yzerman, Brendan Shanahan.
And I wanted to ask him more questions about Pavel Datsyuk too and how it was like coaching him, but then we talk about Steve Yzerman, which was my favorite player of all time. And then you could talk to that guy for hours, and just he loves talking hockey. And at 90 years old and having a memory like that and still being involved in the game, he was talking to us just off camera, and he was talking about one weekend, this weekend he was watching hockey and stuff like that.
A bunch of U16s or something like that.
Yeah.
Crazy. So like he's still involved in the game. He still loves the game very, very much, obviously.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know what? That was his job for 50 years.
Yeah.
I still feel really stupid for screwing up the intro and saying 4.
Yeah, we got to talk about that a little bit.
I don't know what the... I was my... I'm going to use a copyrighted moment here from SC with Jay Onright on TSN.
Uh-oh.
That was my you blew it moment.
Yeah.
You blew it.
I was going to say, like, we're going to have a you blew it segment there.
Well, we can't use that because it's already copyrighted probably, but I did blow it.
Botts got corrected by Scotty Bowman in an interview.
Yeah. In the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But then he said I was a good PR director, and
he's going to give you a job.
He's going to give me a job with an NHL team.
Yeah, there you go. You'd be good at that, though.
Yeah, well,
you and Chad GPT.
big dreams, bud.
Big dreams.
Big dreams. Let's start by maybe I'll do a couple of play-by-play games with the Cap Flyers this year. See how that works out. See if I can keep up with Dennis J. Puska.
Maybe you should.
Yeah, we'll start there. Nonetheless, again, Scotty Bowman, thank you very much for for joining the Coast to Coast podcast. It was an absolute pleasure, and we hope that you guys at home had the opportunity to enjoy that. It's not every day that you can listen to a podcast or any kind of radio interview or television show, and have the opportunity to listen to the greatest coach of all time in any sport, or the greatest player of all time in any sport. And we have the GOAT. There's no other way to put that. 9
Stanley Cups as a coach.
As a head coach.
And
5.
No, another 4.
5. He had 14 total.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Another 5.
Yeah.
As a member of an organization.
It's crazy. 3 of them in Chicago with his son, Stan.
14 Stanley Cups, man.
It's unbelievable.
And you know what? Like, for him to come on and talk to us, it was awesome. It was just that's the connection between Scotty and me, I guess, how this all came up was my grandparents had a cottage, Wesley's Point, which is between Ottawa and Montreal, and Scotty's parents had a cottage there as well. So Scotty knows my grandpa, and you know what? We got I stopped there on my way out east, and then we got talking with a neighbor who's really good friends with Scotty, and then we got talking about this podcast, and she's like, "Well, I'll give Scotty a call, and he's gonna call you, and then you could be on your podcast." I'm like,
he called what 2 days later?
Yeah. Well, it was like, yeah, I think so. And I didn't know who was calling, so you know what? Like, nowadays, we don't really answer the phone if we don't know the number. So I got a message from Scotty Bowman.
Yeah,
I'm looking for Sheldon Riesbeck, and I called him right back, and you know what? We actually talked for like half an hour, and he was super interested about me going to Iceland, and it was awesome talking to you, Scotty, and thanks again for doing that. That was a lot of fun. Yeah,
like, where do we go from here? I'm just like, I don't know where to. I don't even know where to take this. Yeah, the only way is up.
Yeah, I got some like a little feel good story here, buddy.
Okay, and I'll let you say it, but all I got to say, is I don't know who our guest next episode will be, but man, you got some big ass motherfucking shoes to fill.
Why does it have to be me that finds the talent?
No, not you. I'm saying like the person that comes on.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
The person that comes on is Hey, I've been working my ass off to try to get some people on, some talent on here. I've tried hard.
Yeah.
What was that face?
Wow, you try hard.
I
but
haven't
you
been successful so
No,
far.
it's okay. I got it. buddy.
But I will.
I got you.
I'll follow that up.
I got you.
I'll
Yeah,
follow
no,
that up.
we have a bunch of actually super interesting guests
Yeah.
lined up there.
Yeah.
So like, you know, some from the area, some from not, some that have played in the NHL, and so like we're having a lot of fun with this podcast. So we're gonna keep that going. I hope you guys
This
like
is
listening.
just the beginning.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning.
And, you know,
I gotta
okay,
tell.
no, my feel good story.
Okay, tell your feel good story, and then I'll tell my feel good
So
story.
I saw this on the social media
On the socials, on the World Wide Web.
on the World Wide Web. So if you look at the screen,
Oh, yeah.
it's pretty cute. So you
that's
know,
corny. That's not a feel good
no,
story.
it's a very feel good story. So
Are you
just,
getting fucking soft on me here?
I'm always soft.
Oh,
Come on, man. So a guy proposed to his now wife. I guess they were playing against each other, and
that's cute.
right. Look at that.
Does she say yes at least? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, she
That's unbelievable.
would. Yeah. Goalies are weird.
Especially.
Yeah. I guess I don't know why they're playing against each other. That's kind of, you know.
Weird.
Yeah, but it's pretty cute. A little feel-good story, you know.
These are just randos. Like, no, this is not anybody that.
This was in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just random, but
Okay.
you know what? Everybody needs a feel-good story. All their potsy, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get so.
You know?
Yeah, it was cute. It was a cute little video you showed.
Yeah, I gotta shut it off because the audio was killing me there. Producer extraordinaire.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? When Scotty gets me that PR job with the National Hockey League team, I'll bring you on as a producer.
Fudge.
I may get fired. But
Yeah, no, don't do that. I'm not. No, maybe we'll hire a producer for our pod.
yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Once we have the money to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, get ready, TDI. You're going to pay a lot more next time we have a big guest on.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Your price just went up.
We're extremely thankful for all of our great sponsors, whether it be, like I said, today's sponsor is TDI, our official beer of the podcast, Full Beer Brewing, amongst many other sponsors that have supported us since the beginning of this joyous adventure that Sheldon and I have embarked on with the Coast to Coast podcast. So, sorry, I want to go back to, just I want to finish it up on Scotty. Okay.
Well, wait. Let's. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, buddy.
I don't know if you know this. I've always had like a mini dream of doing broadcasting or whatever for a job, permanently, professionally. We'll call it.
You have a face for radio.
That's not very nice.
I'm just kidding. You're a beautiful male.
So, I always had a dream of doing that. I was enrolled in college when I was, 17 years old. I was going to Canadore College. I was going to take the radio program at Canadore. And actually in grade 12, I got a job at Q92, Timmins Best Music, and Easy Rock.
Yep.
In Timmins, and I was doing weekend news and weather.
Okay.
In Timmins,
Right.
My radio name was Alex McKenzie.
Why
Because-
couldn't you use your name?
Because I was only 16 years old, so they didn't want me to use my real name at 16. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a privacy thing or
Did you choose your name or?
no. They gave it to me.
Oh,
They said,
because I was gonna say if you chose your own name, you could have went like Sexy McDaniels or something like that.
No.
No.
They gave me the name Alex McKenzie. So it was my radio name, and I said I live by it.
Where were
today.
you from?
Oh, I was from Timmins.
No. Where's Alex McKenzie from?
Timmins.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why they never asked that question. So, anyways, I did weekend news. This is a true story, obviously, right? I was in grade 12, and you know how your social life can be in grade 12. I was getting up at 4:00 in the morning every Saturday, every Sunday to go to the radio station in Timmins, record my spots. I'd work a 4-hour shift. I was back home by 10 a.m. or no, before 10, I guess it'd be like closer to 8 a.m. I would record everything, my news, my weather for the entire day. morning, afternoon, evening, and then I do the same thing on Sunday, and then the weekday full time crew would come in on the weekend. So I kind of got a taste for it. I loved it. Yeah, sorry, that was weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, but then, and no disrespect to radio announcers, and then I found out what the gig paid if you worked in Timmins, and I was like, I didn't plan on like leaving Timmins when at that age, and I was like, oh man, like I can't like have a family at this salary, so I kind of panicked. Didn't really get informed. Obviously, if you move to Southern Ontario and you do it in the bigger radio stations, or you now obviously podcasting in the last 20 years has taken off to an all new level.
Yep.
Nonetheless, long story short, the fact that we're doing this podcast is obviously a milestone for myself, and what we just did with Scotty Bowman, that's just like, man, that's awesome. Like I don't want to, again, not going to get emotional, but really cool moment. So thanks for getting Scotty number one.
Yep.
And
Hey,
this is awesome. I love doing this.
This is just the beginning, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
And like we've said before, it's just going to be a good way for us to chat,
Yeah.
when we're apart from each other too. And
I didn't like when you said to Scotty that you might stay in. This is before we went on with Scotty for the interview. We were talking about Iceland, and then he says, "Is there golf courses in Iceland?" And Sean's like, "Yeah, I might stay there next summer." That kind of turned me off a little bit.
I think that was on air.
Was it? I can't remember. We had like a 10-minute conversation with Scotty before we started recording the interview, so I don't remember what was on and what was off.
Yeah,
I was just taking it all in the way it came. So no. Anyways, it is what it is. Yeah. So where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
What do you got planned for the next week, Potsy?
Well,
this weekend, what's up? What's new? What's going on?
Not much. We're I was in Duberville this weekend. Duberville.
Yep.
Home of the Duberville Arena.
That was not. I didn't.
I love my Duberville people. Their family.
The people are awesome.
The people are awesome.
Yep.
Every time I go there, there's only one store. No, sorry, there's a corner store, and then there's like a grocery store, and they have a home hardware. So it's called Le Magasin in French. So we,
okay.
Yeah, right.
It's a good name.
Yeah. So we go to the Magasin every time. Sometimes I spend money. Sometimes I don't.
Sometimes I spend money.
I bought a Traeger. A good buddy of ours, and a former parent of the Cap Flyers, Alain Lacroix, used to own the home hardware and the grocery store, the Value Mart. So I always felt it was important to go and support him every time I went down. So he's since sold, but still go to support when I can. I couldn't believe how expensive lawn chairs were, though. I went to get one of those nice, comfy ones.
Yeah.
It's like $200.
A lawn chair?
Well,
like a Muskoka chair, or
no, not a Muskoka chair. Like those foldable, expandable accordion chairs.
Yeah.
With some padding and a cup holder.
Yeah.
Like a double one was $180, and a single one was like $120.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe how expensive it was.
That is pricey. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I said, you know what? I didn't buy anything this week, but I was in there, family reunion with my.
Those lawn chairs need. Sorry,
yeah, it's okay. You do it all the time.
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I wanted to say something.
Go ahead.
They got to make those chairs because obviously you're using those to sit around the fire and stuff.
Yeah.
And in Northern Ontario, like mosquitoes bite your ass through fucking chair. So they got to make anti-mosquito chairs.
That'd be something.
Maybe our podcast can. Maybe it's like the coast to coast chair for Northern Ontario.
Do you want to go on Shark Tank?
That's American.
What's the Canadian version? Dragon's Den. Let's go on the Den.
Yeah.
Let's create it. Let's go on the Den. Let's ask for $3 million for 5% of the company.
Business ideas with Pots and Shelley.
Yeah, if you're looking to get into business, that we could maybe sponsor our own podcast. We could be the sponsor.
Yeah. Wow, I was the sponsor for one episode.
Well, I was the sponsor for last episode. So. Anyways, yeah. So, anyways, we got to visit some family in Duberville. My wife, there's a lot of people that she didn't even know or ever have a chance to meet. A lot of cousins and stuff like that.
It's fun. Yeah.
I'll be honest, it's kind of my first time in doing. I come from a very I have a very small family, right? My mom on my mom's side, they were only like there's my mom and she had two sisters. One of them has since passed, and on my dad's side, he has a brother and I think three sisters, but it's kind of like it's a small family, and even my grandparents, a lot of them have passed away. Well, all my grandparents have passed away, but a lot of their brothers and sisters have passed on. So, like family reunions has just never been something that I was kind of introduced to, I guess. And I think it was even for Chloe, like probably one of her first, real family reunions, because a lot of the people we were there this weekend, she didn't know. So I think it was more, for the grandparents. And I'm really happy that we went for her grandpa. It was obviously on her grandfather's side. He's getting up there in age as well. A lot of his brothers and sisters are getting up there in age. It
means a lot, right? Like
it means a lot. And I'm happy that we, I kind of chirped her about it because, at first didn't want to attend and, took time away from our vacation and stuff, but really happy that we ended up going, getting to spend some of the time with her parents and her grandparents and, their relatives and stuff like that. So, and I guess it's my family now too. If it's her family, it's my family.
100%. And
we're married.
I had, when I went out east, I met for the first time, I went out there and saw where my mom's dad, my grandfather, on my mom's side. I don't know. I had to re-explain that.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I got it. Yep. Move on.
I think that's pretty. Anyway, so I went to Eureka, Nova Scotia, and that's where the Pye side of the family comes from. And it's like he moved to Cap for a job, and he passed away early, so I've never met him. But it was so I met like his nephew and things like that, like, and all Pies, and and they're getting up there in age, and they were talking about, hey, we should have a family reunion, a Pye family reunion, and it was like, like my mom was like, yeah, let's do it. So then we might be planning that for next summer.
Yeah,
go out to Eureka, Nova Scotia.
That's awesome.
And have a little Pye reunion, because it was cool. It's like I didn't want to go either, and then when I was there, I was just like, holy man, this is my heritage. This is my,
so it came from.
Yeah. And it meant a lot. So I was like, this was actually very cool. So,
Yep. So, no, that's what happened. What do we got going on though? This weekend?
I'm playing some music.
Oh, where?
On Thursday, I'm playing for the Sensenbrenner Hospital Foundation at the golf course.
After the round. Yeah. I wanted to play in that tournament.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get a team together. So if anybody wants to play golf on Thursday afternoon, hit me up.
Okay, let me see what I can do. Let me see what I can do.
Buddy.
We might a little power play and liqueur motor sales collaboration.
Well, it's going to be team power play.
In collaboration with liqueur motor sales.
So we're gonna get polo with like power play on one side and liqueur on the other.
We'll do something.
We'll put liqueur on the.
We'll figure it out.
We'll put liqueur on the.
Yeah. Let me see what I can do. See what I can do.
All right.
And then also we didn't talk about this, but we still in the works of it. But we're gonna be playing a 2-man best ball.
Yes.
In next week, you had mentioned maybe going to do the Northern Loop, New Liskard, Haileybury, whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, look, let's play a tournament. Like, if we want to do something like that, we can still stay local.
Yeah.
And
we'll get some footage.
The last time we got footage, it didn't work out well, Shell.
I know, but we'll do better this time. But actually, no, you know what? There's some clips, so I got to put that together. I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that.
How's the golf game?
It's very bad. I just came to terms with me not being a good golfer this year. I think it's just that's what it is.
Yeah. Eh?
Yeah, like I just can't figure it out.
Well, last Wednesday when we played together, you had a really rough start, and then you finished it off with like 6 straight pars.
Yeah, but like it started with 2 triples, so then
yeah,
I was 6 over after 2.
Yeah, I know, but then you finished it with 6 straight. Like you shot a 41 on 9, but you were like +6 after.
Well, no, I had 1 bird and then pars, but
yeah,
no, then I had another. No, I was 43, I think, but
not much.
Whatever.
Yeah, I thought you were like 41.
No, but that like,
yeah,
I'm not.
You're just not the old Shelley that we used to know on the golf course.
No, well, not this year. Next year, I'm going for the green jacket.
Oh, did you just break some news? Are you going for the green jacket?
Going for the green jacket.
Well, that's a big statement for a guy that just shot 43
and 48.
Oh,
on 9 holes, guys. On 18, that'd be pretty good.
Big statement.
No, not the green jacket, not yet. But I just want to compete. Well, I just want to be in chat and flight again. And
you, if you want to go for the green jacket, not yet. You better get there soon, bud, because you're not getting any younger.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Look at Dan Pichet.
That's true.
He's like the ageless winner. He just won a tournament this weekend.
I know, but Dan Pichet was competing for green jackets well before you were in diapers.
Yeah,
and he's still competing for green jackets.
Yeah, well, that's it. So I got my best years ahead of me, boss.
All right. We'll put it in paper and let's see if Shelly can win a green jacket.
I need a green jacket to match my hat.
I'll dare you to wear that hat on Sunday at the Bob Young next year. Yeah. So anyways, we got that. I think we're going to bring Stats Guy Zach with us. It's a 2-man, but we're probably going to go down 4 guys. We'll still figure out the teams and stuff like that. It's in Smooth Rock Falls. Mm-hmm. Beautiful little course in Smooth Rock. Not overly challenging, but if you don't keep the ball within a radius that's short grass, it can put you into some trouble. The greens are usually pretty nice too. I think they're struggling this year, but hopefully in August they'll be.
Cap nice. had some issues too, but then now it's nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. The greens are just really nice right now.
Yeah, and I started putting better, so it's nice.
And then also today I saw on the Cap Flyers Facebook page, they announced their season opener and home openers.
All right.
So a season opener is a Wednesday night, October the 2nd in Timmins. It'll be the Truth and Reconciliation game that they do for Indigenous communities.
Yes.
And the home opener will come 10 days later, against the Sault Ste. Marie U16 Greyhounds at the Sports Palace, 7 p.m. start.
So, I didn't know the U16s were back.
There's 3 U16 teams. A 9-team league this year. So the playoff structure is really challenging. Okay, so there's 9 teams. Top 4 make it to the playoffs.
Okay.
5, 6, and 7 will compete in a play-in tournament.
Right.
8 and 9,
you're out.
You're
done.
You go.
It's good because when we were coaching,
the regular season meant nothing.
It meant absolutely nothing,
and that pissed me off because we had really good regular seasons, and we still had to. I think what pissed me off. Well, what frustrated me the most is that you beat teams all year long, and you still got to spend the energy and the money to go beat them again in the year-end tournament.
Yeah.
What was the point?
Yeah.
What was the point? But anyways, I'm glad the GNML, the Great North U18 Hockey League has figured it out, and this is the structure now. So that's what's going on in our little lives here in Kapuskasing and area. So look, I know this has been a little bit longer than normal episode, but obviously given the magnitude of our special guest, we did want to allow ourselves a little bit of extra time to chat here on the Coast to Coast podcast, episode 5. Any final words before we say our salutations?
No, man. Just again, thanks to Full Beard for the beer and official beer of the pod, and a nice little Drop Bear IPA is always good in the mouth.
Yes, sir. And again, a special thanks to our episode sponsor. I was going to say event sponsor, but episode sponsor, TDI Hockey. Are you an aspiring hockey player between the ages of 15 and 20, looking to take your game to the next level? Then TDI Hockey was built for you. Looking to get into a U18 AAA team or make the jump to Tier 2 junior hockey, major junior, or even try to make an NCAA or OUA team? We are the team you want to work with. TDI Hockey's passionate and skilled team members are here to help players achieve their goals. TDI uses showcases across Ontario and the U.S. to expose their players and bring them to the next level in their hockey careers. Located in Northern Ontario, the boys at TDI Hockey understand fully the obstacles of presenting players in front of I really screwed that one up.
You're good. Keep going.
I'll restart. Understand fully the obstacles presented to players trying to gain the extra bit of exposure needed to make the jump to the next level. With a staff comprised of members who have over 10 years of coaching experience, scouting, and hockey operations, TDI uses a strong network in the world of hockey to push and promote players to the level that they desire. Visit and follow us on Facebook at TDI Hockey and keep an eye out to our new website that will be launched soon. TDI, the on and off ice development you need.
So the first time he said it, I think he said with the staff compromised of members.
Compromise?
I think
there's another you blew it moment.
Yeah, you're good.
Potts has become the you blew it king.
You're like peeking. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
For those that wonder why I'm peeking this week, listen to episode 4. You'll know why I'm peeking.
Yeah, I try to turn him down because, but all right, we're good.
We're good. Thanks again, TDI. Yes. Thanks to Full Beard Brewing. Thank you to our special guest, Scotty Bowman. This was fantastic.
Absolutely amazing. If you guys want some music Thursday at about 4, I think it's like a little 5 à 7 that we're doing at the golf course. The weather is looking promising, knock on wood, but we'll be outside. So come join us on the big deck.
The big deck.
Yeah. All right.
Ciao.
Bye, everybody.